Jimmy Neutron was a great show, and while yes, it didn't last that long, it only had a few seasons, it's a very diehard fan base. And when you have this hit show with funny characters, memorable setting, what do you do next to follow it up? You take away all of that, leave one character who's more or less just the sidekick to the main character, and then put him in space. This is Planet Sheen. Now, Planet Sheen came out a few years after Jimmy Neutron ended. Again, it has Sheen, who is Jimmy's best friend, or one of the two best friends of the show. He goes to Jimmy's house to find an Ultralord card that he misplaced, and ignoring all Jimmy's warnings to not enter the rocket, decides to go in it anyway, sent to space, however far away, and crashed on a distant planet. In theory, having a spin-off of Jimmy Neutron is not a bad idea. There could be a lot done, even with Sheen as a main character. I think the problem is that when Planet Sheen came out, they kind of made him more goofier, and it was more just gags and not really having a serious plot, which I guess the first show didn't really have one either, but there was still conflict. I don't even think Sheen cares he got stuck on a planet. He seems not even that interested whatsoever. More or less just going along with it. And I think because of the fact that it's so far removed from the original series that it's hard to relate to anything or see it as its own show. Because the problem is, Sheen as a main character works better when he's not meant to be the serious leader type. He's more like the goofy sidekick. And I guess that's where we have the new Jimmy of the show, which is Nesmith. And also we have Doppy, who's just Carl Weezer. In fact, even reading more into what the show was before it got made, it wasn't even meant to be a Jimmy Neutron project or spinoff. And again, I think it works better as a duo, because you're taking everything about it away from the first show and just banking on people wanting to see Sheen be goofy. And the problem is with that, there really isn't a character growth at all, or in general. And it was a lot of missed opportunity with the show, with maybe even having more callbacks to the first series or previous characters like bumping into Sheen, or maybe even having the first part of the show take place on Earth and have Jimmy because it really makes no sense how, yes, Jimmy and Carl and their friends and family probably have no idea where Sheen went, but literally the kid's a boy genius who has traveled to space numerous times at the speed of light and gets places faster than most people, that it seems that they would have found him after the first episode. It would have been funnier if it was like Sheen and Jimmy stuck somewhere, and they had to work with the ground up what they have to build a rocket. And while yes, in the first series, Sheen is a very just weird and odd kid with his friends, he does show character growth. He learns and makes mistakes and has a girlfriend. He clearly does care about his friends and does care about the scenarios they're in. Just because it's not like Jimmy and showing how, he solves problems, he's still proven that he can be helpful when he wants to be. And the show, he's kind of just accidentally gets what he wants, by chance. And it just seems to work in his favor. I think when some people are, in high demand for a show to come back, and they want to see all the original characters and locations and settings, you'd think that they'd want to bring back what people want to see. When you take that away and you just move the setting, characters, location, concept, and just bring it down to just one person, and essentially trying to reinvent the character and taking away what was already established in the first show. I don't know. I think there was a lot of missed opportunities, and hopefully, while there were funny moments in the show, and the character of Dorcas is always funny, and the interactions with Sheen, Nesmith, and Doppy were great. But then again, it also reminded me of just Carl, Sheen, and Jimmy. I honestly wish they got a proper conclusion, and it seems like at one point there were talks about Planet Sheen having an ending where his friends come and rescue him. That'd been a great ending, just to... Or if worst case scenario, have Nesmith build the rocket ship and they fly back home and no one realizes Sheen was gone because, I don't know, the time on... Maybe the time on Xenu, the planet he crashed on, the time is so much different that 6 months there is 15 minutes on Earth. There you go, problem solved. So he just comes back to Earth and no one's like, oh, Sheen, you're gone. Huh. Maybe down the road we'll see a reboot or a continuation with Jimmy Neutron. Or maybe how it was with Rocko's Modern Life or Invader Zim, where it just picks up 15 years later after it ended. I think when it comes down to it in general, Planet Sheen just kind of seems like an afterthought that was put together without much consideration of how it might fit in with the already established plot, and just said, well, Jimmy Neutron's still popular, so let's just make this show without Jimmy Neutron. And again, there were a lot of missed opportunities with the show. I think there was a good concept, I think it was funny in some areas, but I don't think Sheen works as a lead character. Or at least the version of Sheen we got in the show showed really no growth, too mature. And honestly speaking, if they want to make it just end it better, just have this happen as a scene.
Phew. I guess it was all just a dream.
It was all a dream.